Let's run a scenario. You're chilling in your Cheeto dust stained gaming chair at 11 p.m. on a Friday night, bored out of your goddamn mind, looking on the Steam store page, desperate to find anything that might entertain you. You see a game with overwhelmingly positive reviews on sale, so you know you gotta snatch it. You buy it, then you boot it up and start playing. Your boredom quickly subsides, but only for 5 minutes. Then it comes back at you at full force, stronger than it ever was. You quickly Alt F4 out of the game, then you say to yourself, I'm not really feeling it today. Maybe tomorrow. And with that, you proceed to never play the game again, just letting it sit in your library to collect dust for an indefinite period of time. We've all been there, let's be real, but the question is, how did we get there? A decade ago, we enjoyed all our games, even though they had worse graphics and sometimes super wacky controls, but regardless, we still had the time of our lives. How did we go from being able to play our older consoles for hours and hours without even a hint of boredom, to today where we barely have the drive to play a new game for more than a couple of minutes? Are games getting worse, or are we just getting too old for video games? And how do we enjoy games again? Well, lucky for you, I have a couple answers to these questions. You see, I too have gone through a period of my life where playing video games was less entertaining than watching paint dry. And I want to share the methods that helped me find fulfillment in even the least stimulating of games. So let's get into it. But first, why does this happen? Why is it that games were so much more fun when we were children, but now, not so much? Well, there could be any number of reasons that vary depending on the person. Could be because video games were novel when we were younger, and now that we've had these luxuries for so long, we take them for granted. Could also be that your friend group used to play video games together, and after years and years of adulting, your friends slowly drifted apart, causing you to be all alone with little desire to play games. Or it could just be that you're working too much, and gaming doesn't really fit into your tight schedule of working and napping and working and napping and working and napping. It could be pretty much anything, but the most prevailing one that I hear is that video games are getting worse. This opinion is common with millennials and doomers, both of which usually don't even play video games. While it's true that the games of today are nothing like the games of the 1980s or 1990s or even the 2000s, for better or for worse, that doesn't mean that all the games after a certain time period are just garbage. Right? Well, at least not all of them, okay? There are a lot of new games that happen to be garbage, but there are also a lot of old games that are just straight garbage, but people praise and defend them with impunity solely because of nostalgia. Everyone feels nostalgic about one thing or another. For some, it's shitty video games. For others, it's food we grew up eating. For me, it's gotta be the Razor scooter. Even though it decimated my shins as an 8-year-old, there's still a special place in my heart for it. It's okay to be nostalgic towards something, whether that be something that sucks or something that's awesome. Just try not to be so blinded by nostalgia that you don't give any new games a fair shot, because you don't feel the same way that you did playing Ocarina of Time 20 years ago in your family room. Because I'm sorry to break it to you, but you're just never gonna relive that experience. Unless you were to play older games, because you should play older games now! If you're one of those people who constantly complain on the internet about how modern games suck and how they'll never live up to your personal nostalgia golden age, then I have a prescription for you. Just play old school games. I personally love replaying games that I played during my childhood like Ratchet & Clank, Ocarina of Time, Pokemon Red, everything, man. You can also play gems that you've never played before. If you're zooming like me, you probably miss out on a lot of classics that you would have loved if you played it when you were younger. If you're finding no joy in modern games, then just boot up an emulator and play some classics. Legally, of course, because I would never encourage you to ever pirate a game. Like, seriously, I hate those degenerates that just go on the Pirate Reddit megathread list, and they use one of these safe and detailed guides on how to download free emulators and ROMs. Like, it's just so messed up because it costs hardworking and in-touch companies like Nintendo to lose gajillions of dollars. So yeah, make sure you don't go on this megathread and download thousands of ancient games for free. That'd be super fucked up. So in essence, if you're disappointed in modern games, you should just play the large selection of older games. That should help reignite your love for video. If you find yourself still bored while playing old games, it's clear that the age of the game isn't the problem. The real problem is your habits and discipline. You might be thinking, discipline? I'm playing video games, it shouldn't require any discipline to do. Well, that might have been the case for you 8 years ago. In the current era, there are so many things that are feeding for your attention. These things are usually a million times more stimulating than playing a little old story game. Whether that be social media or short-form content like TikTok and YouTube Shorts, or maybe even Twitch streamers whom you have a routine of watching every single day. All of these things require much less discipline than playing a single-player game. But despite that, finishing a game is far more fulfilling than scrolling through TikTok for a couple of hours, or mindlessly watching a Twitch streamer. After finishing a good game, you feel happy, satisfied, euphoric even, and sometimes you let out some tears if the story was sad enough. That or you're letting out some tears if you just finished Redfall, and you're just now realizing that you can't refund this piece of garbage. Whatever the case, there's nothing like finishing a good game. But compare this to watching TikTok, where you get a huge boost of stimulation in the beginning that slowly wanes over time. Anyways, the thing that worked best for me was slowly weaning off my bad habits for weeks until they were nothing. But before I teach you this method, I want to tell you that moderation is key. Even though short form content can corrode your attention span, at the end of the day almost anything is fine in moderation, and it's up to you to determine what has a negative impact on your life. For me personally, I see video games as a perfectly fine and healthy form of recreation, at least for most video games. But for some, they may think video is a complete waste of time. On the other hand, short form content and social media serves as visual junk food for me. But for you, it might be the complete opposite. And also, not all these things are equally bad. Having a Twitch streamer on your second monitor while you play a repetitive game isn't awful, but doing the same thing with a story game that requires your full attention to enjoy might ruin the experience. You decide what recreational activity is worth your while. Now that that's out of the way, this is how you can eliminate negative habits. First, you go through your day like normal, doing whatever you do on a daily basis, regardless of how bad it is. Log down your daily routine on a piece of paper or in the notes on your phone. Write down the habits that you deem as distracting or draining of your attention span. Then anytime you participate in these habits, start a stopwatch. You can use your phone for this too. Once you're done with the habit, you write down the time of the session on the piece of paper and you add it up as you go. At the end of the day, you should have all your habits timed out, and this will give you a really good baseline of all the habits you need to improve. Let's say your day looks like this: 8 hours of working, 4 hours of watching TikTok, 2 hours of social media, and 1 hour of crying in the shower thinking about her. For the next couple of weeks or months, slowly replace these things with gaming or another recreational thing that you want to do more of, like hiking, hunting, whatever you do. The next day you might reduce all your habits by, let's say, 5 minutes or however long you feel comfortable with. And during the meantime, you make yourself play video games to fill the gap. This is a very slow but effective method of replacing your habits. It might be hard at first and annoying to constantly log your hours, but it'll most definitely pay off in the long run. Trust me, if you do this every day and keep logging your hours, in a couple of weeks or months your habits will be where you want them to be. But make sure you don't try to rush the process. You might be tempted to just say screw it and try to quit these addictive habits cold turkey. People often think that big change happens in a day. People watch these videos with a motivational speaker yelling in your ear about grinding and hustling. They tell you to just lose weight. They tell you to just quit. Well, a big burly guy in the background is chopping wood and you think, yeah, I can change. I can be different. Then for one day, you go to the gym. You go for a run and you eat healthy. Then that day ends and you immediately fall right back into your bad habits. And sometimes your habits get worse. By making you binge on all the things you neglected throughout the day. Huge change doesn't happen in a day. Huge change takes many days of consistently doing slightly better until your habits compound to where you want them to be.
Miscellaneous tips.
If you have problems staying off certain websites, use a website blocker. You can usually find these in the extension store of your browser. This one even has a setting where you can redirect the blocked link to a custom URL of your choice. So instead of wasting my time on Twitter, I get redirected to this motivational video instead. Another tip is to watch VODs instead of live streams. Streamers often have sporadic schedules that create a feeling of urgency when they go live, giving you the fear of missing out. If you just watch the VODs, it's easy to fit the streams into your own schedule, and it gives you the power to watch it anytime you want. The last tip is to delete apps that are distracting. If you want to go on TikTok, for example, you'd have to re-download and sign into the app. This is a pain in the ass which can deter you from going on TikTok. So, when it comes to enjoying games again, sometimes it's as simple as playing games that you loved during your childhood. Most often though, it's your addiction to extremely stimulating content that forces you out of doing the things that you love. It's up to you to replace these habits and work harder to live a more fulfilling life. It may seem difficult at first, but it's definitely possible. Consistency and small changes are the most important elements in this. So yeah, make sure to stay safe out there.